Today's award luncheon and annual meeting is free and is included with registration. We hope you'll be joining us for the awards luncheon and annual meeting. That will be at 12 noon today. We're now ready for our session. I had a chance to hear the Cardinal Cowboy yesterday, and you will not be disappointed. Carter Rethwisch, is that Rethwisch? Did I say that right, Carter? Okay. He was given a 50-50 chance of survival. He turned his dreams of being a professional baseball player into actions to help motivate and inspire others. Please welcome Carter Rethwisch, Cardinal Cowboy.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. How are we doing today? The weather's still kind of nice out, right? Yep. All right, I'm going to set this. I carried the World Series trophy for what I like to believe is a little bit of a powerful reason. So I'll set this down up here, but that's kind of my little mantra. And we like to espouse those things that are unique, powerful, and supportive, right? So, again, my name is Carter Rethwisch. How many of you guys have seen me at the Cardinal game? Probably a few of you, right? Go to the Cardinal game, see what I do. Many people know me as this character I've created called the Cardinal Cowboy. And the Cardinal Cowboy thing kind of started out as just something kind of fun. And I started wearing my dad's red Augie Busch hat and then the jersey. And then one day I said, you know what? I should have been out there. I'm going to wear the baseball pants. And when I did, then it just kind of went from there. So there you see a picture of my good friend Fred Bird. And Fred Bird and I actually do a lot of community stuff together, and we end up showing up at events together. Not really because we coordinate, but because the organizations, they want the fun stuff that we do to be part of what they're doing. My logo, my college roommates.com got cut off there, but anyway. That is obviously a good replica of what I look like with my shirt off. Maybe I should hit the gym. But we try to emphasize a little bit of strength and power and being strong and believing in yourself. And so my buddy, who's one of the best artists to ever come through St. Louis University, drew that for me. Picture of my parents. So this started many years ago. My parents were at the seminar yesterday, and they thought it was important. My mom thought it was important that I played the piano because I needed another art to help me refine who I was going to be. I did that through about 7th grade, 6th grade. At one point I finally said, Mom, I'm not playing piano lessons anymore. She says, Carter, you need something that rubs you the wrong way. You need to do something that you don't necessarily enjoy. And I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I don't need piano lessons for that. I've got Mom. My mom didn't know what to say at that point, but I didn't have to take piano lessons anymore. So, but started to wear the sports stuff. Dad had an influence, obviously. Football, baseball, and then this is the first picture that I have on record. I started wearing the hat in about 1982 when my dad first bought the hat. Remember the '82 Cardinals World Series champions, and they had that Augie Busch, red Augie Busch hat replica, and that's my high school picture when I was 17 in about 1988 or so. And so that's the first time we have a picture of me wearing the hat. And that was for prom. Baseball was obviously a key influence for me, and that's where I talk so much about how sports or any kind of extracurricular activity that somebody has a passion for, I think, is what most people end up finding out drives them to be who they are. But we were the 1990 Pony Regional Champs, which was for the region, and I guess that would put us in the class of one of the top 6 or 7 baseball teams in the country. I was fortunate that year to win the award for my team for the most valuable player. And one of my monikers claim to fame is that there's 2 other guys that you may know who also won that same award. There's actually, I think, a third. But Kyle McClellan, Ryan Howard, who ended up being the National League MVP, who just recently finished up with the Phillies, and then another guy by the name of David Freese. So pretty good audience that I get to say that I was in the same crowd with for a little bit there anyway. And you can see here's where we're all the team MVPs. Brian Rupp is on the top left there. Brian Rupp won the team MVP, or the league MVP, so we're all competing with him and then who had a better average, et cetera. So we're all, and Brian Rupp actually out-hit a well-known guy by the name of Derek Jeter back in A-ball, if you recall. So Derek Jeter, some people say, might have been the best shortstop to ever play baseball. And this guy out-hit him, and we're all playing ball against each other. picture from high school. And then I went to college, and this is right about the time my life literally was flipped upside down, literally. So I scored a goal. I was playing soccer at Central. I was going to play baseball in the spring, obviously. And not long after this game, we decided to go. This is previous game. The next game we played against Missouri Baptist, and they were in Fayette. And my parents drove down to see us play. And I said, "Great to see you, Mom and Dad, but I'm turning around going back to St. Louis." And they're like, "Well, thanks. We just drove down here to see you, but I'm going to meet the gal I've been dating." She was driving down from Bradley, and the meeting with my girlfriend was interrupted because I ended up in a pretty severe fatal accident. So this is the scene where the car actually went down that hill at the scene of the accident here. The driver of our car, his name's Jimmy Barnes. And Jimmy at the time was an 18-year-old freshman at Central, real good soccer player. We were all on the soccer team together, and all of us were involved with this accident, September 21st, 1991. Here's the truck that hit us, the back end of the truck that hit us, and then here's the car we were riding in. That's the front of the car we were riding in. And now prepare yourself for this one on the side, and then this one inside the car. And these are images that I don't put on my website. You can see some of these, but these are the ones I kind of keep for presentations for adults, because this is something to catch you off guard if you're not, a little blood adds a lot of emotion to a picture like that. Sadly, Jimmy Barnes was killed as a result of this accident. They pulled me out of the ambulance, out of the car when the accident occurred, and I was apparently coherent. I don't remember any of this. Talking to the paramedics, and they had Jimmy in the ambulance. They had the drunk driver, so the guy that hit us blew a .21. If anybody knows what that means, most people do. Some people may not be familiar, but that's your blood alcohol content. And back then, the legal limit was .10. Now it's .08. So he was very close to being 3 times the legal limit. That was his 5th DWI. And he obviously didn't have insurance or anything. So Jimmy, they took him, they were about to send the first ambulance, and I began to have seizures at the scene, at which point when they first initially thought I was going to be okay and they could get me with the second trip, they decided that I better go on the first trip. They pulled the drunk driver out that had hit us. He'd just been in the ambulance. It was a matter of who they could get in there first. Pulled him out, put me in, and they said if I hadn't made that first trip, I would not be here today. So God had other plans, right? Here's where they actually sentenced the gentleman who hit us. I don't know if I should say gentleman, but the guy who hit us, and he was put in jail for a period of time, sentenced 5 years. And Jimmy Barnes is no longer here. I proceeded to, with my recovery, I'll go back a little bit. I proceeded with my recovery. I'm in the hospital at the time. This is right after the accident. They shot me up with a drug called Dilantin. How many people are familiar with Dilantin? They no longer use Dilantin. I understand they've got a replacement for that. It's not as harsh, apparently, but many times when you have that kind of a head trauma, you do end up going into a coma. So I proceeded to go into a coma, and that's when the doctor said I had less than 50-50 odds to survive. They called my parents. They said, you need to get to the hospital. My dad, having some familiarity with this kind of incidents, said, can I talk to my son? And he knew that when they said that he couldn't talk to his son, it was pretty severe. So they showed up at the hospital. I'm in a coma now in the ER. They restrain your arms. A ventilator down my throat. I found out not too long ago they actually have a bulb that they blow up inside your throat so that you can't pull it out. Well, I'm in a coma for 5 and then 6 days, and at that point I pulled my arms out of the restraints, pulled the respirator out of my own throat, and they said, we think Carter's going to make it. Good indication, right? But they did proceed to tell my parents. They said, look, here's the deal. And this is where I get into my recovery. This is what overcoming, right? They told my parents that they were going to have to take care of me for the rest of my life. Now, those who know me, and I've got some good friends that I run around town with, and people I obviously associate with, they would argue that there's still certainly something very wrong with me, right? The recovery, the recovery was certain, but it wasn't. It was, and the truth is, anything like this does dramatically affect your life in a way that you're forever changed. But I proceeded to come out of the coma. They took me home, and they said, "Okay, Carter, you're going to drop out of school for this semester." And I said, "No, I'm not." And I stayed in school. I got grades. They weren't good, but I wouldn't drop out. And that's where I talk to people about what is it in my mind that kept me so focused that I wouldn't quit. And I think that came from sports more than anything, because I recall my mom's an awesome English teacher. She was my critic yesterday for my speech. She said, "You did great. Here's a couple things to talk about." I said, number one, she's my mom, a little bit biased, and number two, and she's never been, everything's peachy. She always lays it out for me. Her claim to fame, and that was exciting. She taught John Goodman drama, and so she's got some professional experience with doing some great things. And so she said, "Here's a couple things." I said, "Well, Mom, I'm going back to school," and so they literally had to walk me to class. And I remember my friends would come to my room. Think about this. I'm in college. I'm trying to go to class, and I can't even get myself to the class. And they would walk me, and one of the doctors, PhD, teachers of one of my classes, said, "Carter should not be here. He doesn't know where he's at." But I didn't know any better, and I just kept going. And that's the message that we'd like to talk about with the Cardinal Cowboy. So this all proceeded to happen. I did then graduate from college on time. I make the joke that if you could score points like you do in basketball to get a 4.0, if I'd have just got one more basket, I'd have had a 4.0. Meaning I had about a 2.0. But you know what they call the guy who finishes college? Graduate, right? And so I finished college and then proceeded to go in and go to grad school. Going the wrong way. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to the Cardinal games. I'm going to do some fun stuff. And that's like I said, I started wearing the jersey. And then one day he said, "You know what, I should have been out there. I don't really worry what people think so much, obviously. I'm going to wear the pants to the baseball game." So I decided, I said, I don't know what people are going to think here, but at that point I had started playing semi-pro baseball again. And I said, "Here goes, we'll see what happens." And the reaction I got was really surprising. I mean, there's always and this is a fact I've heard, 1 out of 100 people can find something wrong with anything no matter what, right? It doesn't matter how positive what you're doing is, how many people you're helping, they will find. And that's really sad for the state of mind that person is in. And try to help those people, because there's obviously something that's gone wrong and they're focusing on the wrong things. But the reaction I got was really amazing, because it was the 99% of people that I found that were really excited and enjoyed it and made it to be a lot of fun. So I started taking pictures. Oops, going the wrong way again. Started taking pictures and putting them on this new technology. How many people have heard of the internets? Right? So my backup plan was to be a computer guy. My parents made me go to summer classes when I was playing 40, 50 games of baseball during the summer, and I had to go to computer classes. So thank goodness for the backup plan, because now that was going to take place. And I bought a domain name called Cardinal Cowboy and .com. And so just decided on my own to get one of these things called a digital camera. Remember these things? And so back in 2003, 2004, I had one of the first digital cameras that were kind of more commonplace, and then I took the pictures and would upload them to my website, and I found out I'm an internet guy, so I checked the stats, and I had 500,000 hits in about 2 weeks. And I'm like, wow, we've got something here. We need to do something positive. I said, if my mom finds out I'm not doing anything but being positive and trying to help people, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, right? So we decided, all right, let's take our message here and start to spread what we do. So I end up doing all kinds of fun stuff. That's a picture in the parade for when the Cardinals won the 2006 World Series. I'm not going to take credit for the Cardinals winning the 2006 World Series, but I'll say I had a lot to do with it, right? As did all the fans that were out there. So premieres for certain openings of different events and fun stuff I get to do. DMC, one of my favorites when I was a kid. If you guys know, Run DMC, that's DMC, Darryl McDaniels. And got to interview him, and I sat and sang with him his song, "It's tricky to rock around, that's right on time, it's tricky." And I showed him I have that in my top 10 songs before he came into the studio. And I said to Daryl, you know, to me that song is all about how life is tricky, life is tough. Life is not easy. You gotta keep plugging to get it done. He goes, "Cowboy, that's exactly what it's about." I'm like, cool. I got to sit down with Daryl McDaniel, DMC, and talk about that. But I get to go out, and so this is at Point Fest. And the Point Fest thing was kind of funny. I'll tell you a quick story. I walk in, and nobody had specifically invited me. I wasn't there as part of the entertainment. But I walked up to the front gate, and they looked at me, and they pointed to me, and they said, you need to go in over there. I'm like, of course I do. And I went with my buddy Carlo, who was in that previous picture, and we walked in, and they just looked at us. They're like, "Yes, sir, right here." We're like, "Exactly." So walked in, and they let me in. I didn't have a ticket or anything. So we get up in front of the crowd and do my thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna see what happens here. I'm gonna get the trophy. Do we have any Cardinal fans in the house? Have we any Cardinal fans in the house? There we go. Have any Cardinal fans in the house? Yeah. And I get the trophy, and I'm like, yeah. And Carlos takes a picture of me, and that was one of the most fun pictures we've had. So I put that one on. And that one's back from 2005, I guess, back when I was 19 years old. So, no, I'm 40. I have had that. Disclaimer, I'm 45 years old by now. Ryan Howard there, his birthday party, a couple fun things. Then I went in and I started playing football. Baseball career was over, right? And I said, hey, there's got to be something else I can do, and there's got to be some football stuff I can do. And I found out there's a whole semi-pro minor league football organization around the country. And one of the best teams is here in St. Louis. It's been around for a long time, and a few teams that have come out that compete with them. And so I'm playing for the Wildcats here. We won the national title for this league we were in, holding the trophy, and proceeded to do other fun things. So St. Louis Magazine called me up and said, hey, would you like to be in our magazine for the best fans photo shoot? And I got to see a lot of the fun favorite fans we got there. I said, well, I have to do what I do and bring some fun people with me to the photo shoot. So I brought my friend Julie and Jamie, and Carlo was in the picture with me. And, you know, those are the kinds of fun things we get to do now to try to enlighten and inspire people. Along the way, then I won the most valuable player for kicking. And one of the critiques my mom had yesterday, and this is a mother, right? And I'm pretty well known for just laying it out there and telling it how it is. And she goes, Carter, there was a little bit much for all the things, the little goofy things that you've done. And I go, Mom, that's exactly the point. As a matter of therapy, as a matter of recuperation, not too many people in this audience, I don't believe, really care too much whether I was the minor league kicker of the year, right? But it was something neat. Thank you. Did you see some of our games? But it was neat for me, and that's the point of the recovery, right? As a matter of recovery, you've got to start setting little goals, little things that you accomplish all along the way, and each one of those helps me to recover as somebody who was in a horrible situation where the doctors told me I wasn't going to make it. And that's what I found. None of these things are substantial that changed lives, but there were little accomplishments for me that helped me to understand that I could do what I thought I was previously capable of, and they helped me to keep that ambitious nature to keep going. And so that's where I like to share these, and hopefully for each one of the people you know and anybody else that may have been in a similar situation, those similar things we need to keep in life. Well, can we save them for the end? Is that all right? Don't forget though, Harry, I appreciate that. So went off and became one of the top sales guys for Google's biggest partner, and then go around the country and now get to like sign autographs for kids and try to inspire kids and do different exciting things. So another neat little thing, they said, Carter, we're going to put you up for Major League Baseball's favorite fan. And I was going up against Ernie Hayes, remember the organist for the Cardinals. He's the only person to play for both the Cardinals and the Blues. Played the organ, but he played. And then the sign guy, Marty, is my buddy, the sign guy. And I ended up winning that contest. So they came to my house, they interviewed me, and this is the first opportunity I really had to tell people why I'm doing what I'm doing. A lot of people see me at the Cardinal games and like, who's this goofy guy running around in a baseball uniform, 30, 40 years old? And then finally some people begin to realize it's because of the charities and the organizations that I want to promote and support and to draw the attention towards the fact that there's a lot of good organizations out there and a lot of people who are trying to make it and have been through some bad situations in life. And if you're willing to work at it and go for it and not give up and not listen to the naysayers, you can get there. And that's what the whole message is. And I got to talk about that with MLB, on MLB's program, and they had me on TV. do some more fundraising stuff. So I used to work for a little brewery based out of St. Louis called Anheuser-Busch. You guys remember them? And but I got, again, going from, and the point is I went from a coma where they literally thought that I wasn't going to be able to take care of myself to where I'm building the corporate clustered email servers, and we had one of the servers go down. It was a redundant thing, so it was still up. One of them was still up, but the other one was down, and if the other one went down, there were 2,000 people that wouldn't have email. And I stayed up till 3 in the morning fixing that, and they gave me a little award. So another little accolades. It doesn't mean much to too many other people, but for me it was neat to be able to see something else that when they told me I wasn't going to be able to take care of myself, and now I'm taking care of the email for the largest corporation in the world and 2,000 users on that one server. There was 3 of those servers, by the way, that I had to build. And then back to some of the other charity stuff that we get to do. So Make-A-Wish. I get invited to come out to different events. You can see that's the old hat, so I know that picture's from a while ago, but this is for Fort Zumwalt South. There's my Gurr face from my headshot that I have. The 50th anniversary for St. Louis Arch, they put me in the video and it came down, and I'm a little bit of a research guy, so I found out, did you know the Arch is actually 3 times, and this is how I said, did you know the St. Louis Arch is actually 3 times the size of the Statue of Liberty? Just saying. Does that make us 3 times better than New York? I don't know. But that's one of my, and we go to games and we hand out these cards that we'll talk about in a minute, where I try to inspire kids, and it says on the card to dream and then chase your dreams. And I give those to as many kids and some adults when I do that, to encourage kids that, it doesn't matter what you've been through, it doesn't matter where you've been, it only matters where you're going and what you're going to do to chase your dreams. And anything is possible, I believe. As a matter of fact, I espouse that there's no such thing as failure, right? If whatever you're going after doesn't happen, it's not because you failed, it's because it redirected you to some other place where you're better and you're more tuned to what you should be doing. And as long as you never quit, you will get there, and you'll go where you're supposed to be, and you'll get to impact a lot of lives, and that's what we all want to do, right? Another event for one of my favorite charities, Little Patriots Embraced, on the field. I was the MC for that. And then we started my TV show that I've just put it on hold recently for the last couple months because I told ABC, I love you guys, but this project that I'm working is really going to impact a lot of people, and it has to be my core focus. But we will have that program back on here in the next couple months, and it'll probably tie into what I'm working on as we work with the guys to get that done. But it's neat to have my show on ABC, and we put small businesses and charities on the show to talk about what they do and how they impact our community. And my video guy is back there, John Pagano, is the guy who comes in and edits and shoots this whole thing, and he does a great job. One of the other fun things that I didn't realize, so how many of you guys, most people are familiar with Dave Freeze, right? He did something exciting in 2011. It was like World Series MVP, right? But I run into him. I get to know him a little bit. One of my friends was his roommate that I played baseball with, and they obviously, when they were roommates, they played baseball together. But he said, Carter, do you know you're actually one of the most photographed guys at Busch Stadium? And I'm like, I guess that would make sense. I mean, I run around in this goofy outfit. I can't imagine there's some people that are going, what's wrong with this dude? But there's a lot of people that get it, that it's actually a fun thing, and you get a lot of people that are diehard fans, and there's people coming around from the country, and they go, I heard about this Cardinal Cowboy guy, I got to get my picture with you. And for good reasons. We're trying to, as long as the message goes along with that we're trying to inspire people. That's what it's about. But I said, well, I'm going to go Google my name, and I don't do that very often, but about every 2 years I'd go up there and type in Cardinal Cowboy. And this is from Bleacher Report, and they never told me they were doing this, and I wouldn't have known except David happened to mention it to me. I said, well, I'll Google it. And I look up, and I was listed as one of 21 super fans in the world. There's 2 from St. Louis. Everybody knows the other one. Right? The Blues towel guy, right? So both he and I are in the top 21 in the entire world, according to CNN's Bleacher Report. And Bleacher Report recently took over they used to have Sports Illustrated as their magazine. Now they use Bleacher Report. And then we get to do fun stuff. By now, a lot of the television agencies, they know who I am, and they grab me for some fun commentary to excite the fans. And there I am carrying the World Series trophy. It does look bigger on TV, doesn't it? And life wouldn't be complete if you didn't have your own emoji, right? So I've got, but one of the coolest things that happened, and one of my aspirations was always to try. I felt as though I was capable, I had the talent and ability to be a professional athlete, and that was cut short by somebody that obviously didn't have control of their own lives, who was intoxicated and threw a loop into my life that has redirected me into something I think that might be much greater. But I didn't give up that path, so I ended up playing minor league football. The first tryout I actually had, I was the backup kicker. Before I played minor league, was the backup kicker for the indoor team, the River City Rage, back in the day. And then went out and played minor league, NAFL, all that fun stuff. It's NFL rules. I've got 5 career 50-plus yard field goals, which when you talk about, they make fun of me on some of the radio stations in St. Louis, and they say, Cowboy, what are you doing running around this uniform? Well, we heard you got a leg. Whoa, that's a heck of a boot, kicking 50-yard field goals. I'm like, yeah, well, the injury didn't affect my leg, so I can do so. But anyway, I ended up making it as the starting kicker for the Missouri Monsters, and I actually got paid to play professional sports. So thank you. That was fun. But I'm not going to say how much, because it wasn't much, but I did get paid. And then not long after that, I remember it was before or after that, I did come back out of retirement. And this is a little bit of the matter of the psychology and the recovery from what you go through. And I was a pretty good hitter. You know, you saw that I won that award that put me in the ranks with the other guys, and Brian Rupp, who now is the AA manager for the Washington Nationals, and some of those guys. And I came out of retirement. I'd come back and played semi-pro, but never was at the same level, all right? And I just had something wrong up here, as we all do at some point in our life, right? Something doesn't quite, what was different about what I did before the coma, before the accident, that I didn't do differently after? And I thought about it, and these guys said, Carter, come out. I'd gone off and played football for quite a while, and I didn't really want to take the time to play baseball. We'd been playing summer league ball with the St. Louis Spikes, which ended up being one of the top, number 1 ranked semi-pro team in the country, according to some rankings that we found. But I wasn't ever playing at the level I knew I was capable of. And it was psychological. It was in my head, right? I felt. And so I came back out after 6 years. I said, Carter, come back out. We need you to come out. We need some players. And I came out, and I said, all right. I took batting practice one time. I started the season 0 for 6, and by the end of the season, I hit 523, and was 23 for 44, and led the league in batting average, and tied for RBIs, and did a lot of fun stuff. And I was like, wow, it really was finally a matter of that, having that mental clarity, that strength, the willingness to continue to not give up, and to refocus on what it was that I was before, and not be afraid to go back there. And as far as baseball went, it was just a matter of, when I got older, I felt like I should hit more home runs, I should swing harder, right? Well, when you do that, that affects your batting, your grip, your stance, and a lot of other things. And I just said, Carter, just put the ball in play like you used to. And I was getting these little dinker hits, and it was another one of those jokes. Do you know what they call the guy who hits the most dinker hits? Batting champ, right? So that was another small accolade for me that I thought was really neat, because I overcame something that most people thought I wouldn't. So those little things that I've gone through, and most everybody has the opportunity to go through similar things and similar accolades. The issue is that they don't do them, right? They have a church or an organization or a charity that they could do some cool things, but they won't. They're so wound up with what happened to them and so frustrated with what they went through that they never can get out of their own frustration to go and do it. And that's what I think is the key to what we're doing. So another little award, this is the Bob Mimig Foundation and helping youth sports. The year before they gave this award to me, they gave it to Jackie Joyner Kersey, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of interesting. I better show up for this one, right? And so Kerry Robinson came down with me, and we get to share some of the excitement there to help promote youth sports. So this to me meant that now we've got a good message, right? And we're doing good things, and we got to keep doing it. And go speak to kids at other schools and organizations. And this kid, most of the time I go to speak, I don't get paid, I don't ask to get paid, but I don't, and sometimes I say cover my costs, whatever it is, but my passion is to try to get that message out to somebody. And so I gave my little speech, similar to what we're talking about today, and was talking to an audience, and I didn't realize who was in the audience, right? I know it's a college group, and so one of the kids in the audience was listening, and I still don't realize it, and I said, hey, if anybody would like to get a hold of me, and by the way, you guys are welcome to also go to Cardinal Cowboy on Facebook, send me a message. So he sent me a message, and I said, Garrett, can I share this now? But essentially he said he liked my speech, it was motivational, but he had a severe stroke at age 19 as he was diagnosed with CNS vasculitis. So I try to stay upbeat, he says, but the last week or two has been very trying. He says, your talk today inspired me to keep going and to have a dream and to chase that dream. Thank you. So that to me was like, now we've got the message out there that people, and if you can just help one person like that to get out of their funk, because the truth is we all have the ability to do whatever we set our mind to, I believe, right? Some of us have had other trauma and other issues that have come through that do cause issue with what's going on in the function of our brain. But even that, I believe, can many times be overcome if you're just willing to continue to push and push and push. Because your brain is a processor, right? And it's got neurons that are connected. And if those neurons, you just keep exercising them, eventually you can rewire, many people argue, you can rewire your brain to overcome much of the trauma. I mean, it depends on how bad it was and how severe. And I had a frontal lobe, executive skills, head trauma. But the reason I believe I came through that was because I just wasn't willing to quit, right? One of the most discouraging things that happened to me was my parents had to take me to a psychiatrist, right? That's what you have to do when you go through something like this. And one of the psychiatrists was talking to my parents, and they said, look, Carter is never going to be the same person he was before. You just need to lower your expectations. Could you imagine saying that to somebody? And so my dad yanked me out of there, says, we'll never go tell a doctor. He said, that doctor should be locked up. And I just proceeded to continue, and that's where I talk about some of the core points that I want to go over then. And I've got just a few things. And because my memory, just as many people's, not always perfect, I take my notes and put them on my little phone here, right? Everybody loves smartphones now, right? So here's my smartphone. I'll finish up here. So this is the accident, and this is where I was before, and then all the fun things that we get to do to try to inspire people. Most people know I pay for all this out of my own pocket. I do a lot of things to help, but it doesn't matter to me. It's not about that. It's really how can we have that impact? And this is where I talk about all the millionaires in the world. What are they doing to help other people, right? And a lot of them do some great things. And it doesn't matter how much money you've got, really. It matters how many people you impact, because ultimately you want to be happy, right? And so how is it you can most easily be happy? And a lot of times money's not the way there, but it's when you can see you've made that impact and you've inspired somebody and you've encouraged somebody and they go out and do something that they thought they weren't going to be able to do otherwise, and that makes an impact. And if you can do that over and over again, this whole world will obviously be able to do much more than we ever dreamed possible if we can just keep that positive approach. So be safe and reach your dreams. So that's where I normally finish up my normal speech. We'll get back to this slide in a second, but I will go back to that. I'm going to ask everybody here to give the Cardinal Cowboy pledge. And before I forget, I'm going to do and this will end up on Cardinal Cowboy. So if we can, we'll do a couple. All right, there we go. There's one, and I'll merge them together. All right. All right. And so we'll come back, and I want to talk a little bit about the Cardinal Cowboy pledge, but let me switch back over here to my notes because I want to make sure there's a couple key things. The biggest issue most people talk to me about is the people that really know what happened, right? Because 9 out of 10 people, they don't even know I went through something like this. The other 1 out of 10 that do know don't really understand how severe it was. And they're just kind of like, yeah, Carter's just a little different. Carter's still something unique. It's a cowboy thing, okay. But there's the very close people to me really realize how traumatic it really was. And then they say to me, Carter, and this was one of the hardest things, when I got that award for the Bob Emick Foundation for helping youth sports, I decided this is going to be hard for me, but I'm going to go research the actual data that I can find on this new thing called the internets, right? And you might have heard of Google? It's catching on, right? That's what I do now for a living, is help people understand and use that as a resource and help their business and charities. And so I started to look it up, and the odds, based on the data that I saw of the recovery that I've made, and remember, there's still something very wrong with me, right? Everybody, we've all got something a little bit unique about us, but the odds of having the type of recovery, given the trauma that I went through, were very small, right? The odds of me being able to come back, make it as a professional indoor football kicker, running the email systems for the largest brewery in the world, I mean, nobody would have thought that was possible. That was absolutely off the charts. You're crazy to even think that. But I just did it. And I realized, and here's the other thing. Some people say, Carter, who do you think you are? And I go, I don't think I'm anybody. The truth is, I know that there's people out there that are way smarter than me. I'm not even that intelligent. The difference between me and most other people is I just don't quit. I don't stop. I don't listen to people tell me the negativity about what it is that they've got in their head that clouds their lives. And that's what I found to me, and that's the real only message I want to convey, is that you've got to, number one, stay away from negativity. If you're allowing that negativity into your brain, we start talking about the fact that it is a proven study that the human mind cannot do two things at once. So it is actually impossible for you to think about what's going wrong and to be focused on something that isn't going the way you want it to, or because somebody told you something bad that's happening, and then to be moving forward with the other thing you're trying to accomplish in your life. You can be a winner or you can be a victim, but you cannot be both. At whatever time, you are either one or the other, and whatever you're focusing on is what's going to happen. And so the more time you have that negativity in your brain with people who've told you something you can't do, that you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, you're not whatever, that's more time you've been focused on this issue distracting you than it is for you going forward. And that to me is the single most important element, because as long as you keep focusing, I used the illustration yesterday, how many people have seen somebody texting while they're in their car? And maybe some of us don't admit you have done this, but maybe there's a time when you're like, I've got to get this done. Do it at a stoplight at least, right? But I promise you, there has never been a person who has texted and been driving their car. Understand what I'm saying? It is impossible to actually be driving the car and texting at the same time. If you are texting while you're in the driver's seat, you are not driving your car, right? You can be like letting the car flow while you're doing your thing, but you're not driving. You're in the driver's seat, but you're not driving. So there's never been somebody on the face of the planet who's ever texted and driven at the same time. And I use that illustration to help you realize, hopefully, that in life you have to stay absolutely focused on what it is. And there's so many negative things out there. There's so many people that will bring those up and reiterate those and try to bring, and it's almost, by now I've got a standard joke that I use with somebody. And I won't say it to their face unless it's a friend of mine, but in my own mind, when somebody says something negative to me, somebody says something condescending to say, and this is back in corporate America or on the baseball field or whatever, I quietly think to myself, somebody's kind of insecure, right? Because they're taking their shot at bringing you down because it's easier, right? There's two ways to have the biggest building in the city, right? The one is to build the biggest building. The other is to knock down all the other buildings, right? Which one is the most productive way to get there? Which way is going to help a lot more people? And there's so many people, I think, that lose focus on that. And because life is tough. If life was easy, we'd have heaven on earth. We don't have heaven on earth, I don't believe. Maybe we're working towards it. Maybe we've got all kinds of cool technology coming, whatever. But for until we get there, it's a battle to get to where you need to be. The other big key point is the psychological strength, and that's what I'm alluding to now, and that is you have to have the mental strength to push through whatever hurdle there is in front of you. And there are going to be tons of them because people then are all competing, trying to get to where they want to get in life. And it's disappointing to me is how many people will go after the negative side to try to bring somebody down and to point something out. And that's where I have a friend of mine who I don't hang out with as much, and he's a pretty high-powered lawyer. And he would run around with me, and he would see behind the scenes what people were saying or doing while I was walking through. Well, guess what? I never noticed. I didn't focus on it. I didn't even bother. And it was this goofy little student. And he said, Carter, I don't know how you do it, man. This guy's a lawyer. More concerned with what everybody thinks about whatever and the fun they're having with whatever, rather than focusing on where we're trying to go and what we're trying to accomplish. But you've got to have that mental and psychological strength that everyone on this planet is born with. It's just, are you going to utilize it? Are you going to maximize it? Are you going to make it happen? And finally, it's that drive and ambition. And this is the part where I think sports becomes so essential. For me, it was sports. For somebody else, it might be music or acting or drama or something special ability that they have. My mom is an incredible woman, but I told her, I said, Mom, I didn't get excited about going to English class. That wasn't what did it for me. But when I was on that baseball field, and it took a number of years after my recovery when I realized that sports, baseball was what gave me I'm 5'9" with my cleats on, right? I'm not the fastest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the most talented, I'm not the most competitive necessarily, but I didn't quit. And that's what separated me. And anybody has the ability to never quit. Because I promise you, if you are on the path and you're close to getting there, but some hurdle arises and you stop, I promise you, you will fail. But if you continue, like we talked about before, if you never give up, you may not get to exactly what you originally thought you were going to get to, right? Your initial target may not be where you end up, but that's because that wasn't where you were supposed to be. That wasn't what was most in tune with your skills, abilities, insight, and everything you bring to the table. And the only way you fail is if you quit. There's only one way to fail, and it's to quit. As long as you continue, despite what all the naysayers may say, despite what the negative perspective may be that's pointed out to you, the only way you're going to get stopped is if you quit. And so how much time do we have here? Let's see. I've still got 4 hours, it says. We got a few more minutes, but this is my passion. So first off, we got to get back to. By now, I can't tell you how many things the Cardinals have stolen from me, as far as good ideas. But this is one of my favorites, and I wear these rings to the games also. These rings, by the way, are real, 100% real. You can hear them clanging. There's nothing about these that are not real. These are 100% cubit zirconia. The real stuff. Don't tell your wife about that one. You might get you in trouble. But finally, the key to this is the persistence. And if it wasn't for the persistence, there's one key attribute that I think makes for the success of anyone, and it's just that you got to keep going. And people give me, I don't know how many people say, Carter, why do you do this, and why do you say that, and you were over the top here, or you weren't enough there, and it should have been done this way, or it could have been done that way, or this expert told me I should have been here, and the other expert told me I should have done that, and none of it matters, because as long as you continue, because as long as I keep on that path, it doesn't matter which manner. It could have been more efficiently done, potentially doing it over here. It could have been done a little bit more easily if I'd have done it that way. But none of that matters. The only thing, I'm in an organization now where we've got to do some tremendous coaching and inspiring and trying to build people up. And you hear 15,000 different ways that you can do every little task that there is that we've got to get accomplished. And I say, it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately it comes down to, are you going to get out there and do it? And do it. And do it. How many of you guys have heard of Art Williams, right? He talks about this. And the fact is, if it's the person that will get out there and do it, and do it, and do it, no matter what happens, no matter what fails, no matter, and they talk about the high-level executive, and he goes, well, what do I got to do? I used to be one of the top people in the whole industry. You really got to do it, right? And the truth is, as long as you're willing to continue to put that effort in and make it happen, you will accomplish your goal. And it will point you. People say, well, Carter, some people don't have that ability. They don't realize what happened. And I said, that'll sort itself out. That's not the issue. The issue is they need to go for it. And if they continue, they will get there. And so that's really all I have to say with regard to my message and what I want to espouse and what we try to promote and try to bring out to the community, because I think that's what most people need to understand about life and where we're at and what we're trying to accomplish. And that's the bottom line for anything. It doesn't matter which method you use. It doesn't matter how often you change what you're doing. It only matters that you continue. And if you continue, you will get there. I promise. There's no way to not get there. And it doesn't necessarily, like I said, end up where you want to be necessarily, but it's where you're supposed to be. And that's the key to this. So let's, if we could, I want to ask everybody, and I'm going to do this, I might even do this video-wise. Is this right on? Let's see, maybe. Does anybody mind if I shoot a video of you guys doing this with me? Is that all right? All right. And this will be on Facebook. This will be fun. All right, so we're going to do the Cardinal Cowboy pledge. Where's my controller? There we go. All right, so this is the Cardinal Cowboy Pledge. I'm going to start it right now. Here we go. All right, if everybody would please, and I don't necessarily need you to stand up, but if you would just put your right hand up. All right, this is the Cardinal Cowboy Pledge. All right, I've got these cards around, a couple of them around here if anybody wants to see the card that we hand out. But I need you to please repeat after me and take the Cardinal Cowboy Pledge. Ready? I promise to dream. And to always, always chase my dreams. And to never stop chasing my dreams. And to help as many others also chase their dreams. All right, you guys are now in the official Cardinal Cowboy Club. Thank you. And so with that, I'll offer the opportunity. If anybody has any questions, I see we have a KC fan in the house. Congratulations, thank you. Supporting the cause, right? Baseball, I think, is a way of life. Who has any particular questions? Harry, I know you had one earlier. Okay, cool. What was the question?
I used to be an All-American for SEH.
There you go. Congratulations. Good job. Yeah. What was the answer? Yeah, and people, I mean, a lot of people figure this one out, I hope, and some people don't, a lot because they don't get it, but the question was, how do you continue to be around the sport that was your passion, I think, after it let you down, after you couldn't get through it and whatever happened, and you didn't make it to the top of the champion that you were going to be. And to me, it was a matter of, it was therapeutic.
Well, what I was saying is that I got to the top. Like, I can't do that anymore. Like, I can't stand to see somebody who can do things that I can't do anymore.
Right.
So one of the questions, you said you play ball, and you go right back to baseball, just being around.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how you able to do that? But you answered by saying basically it's helpful for you also.
Yeah, and I believe you have to be around those things that have helped build you up and give you that energy. And if you understand, baseball is not about baseball, right? They got this playoffs thing going right now, and that's kind of neat. But really, it's that whole institution, I believe, that gives a large percentage of our population, whether it's baseball or softball, that insight towards survival on this little planet through the drive it creates and the ambition that it creates. And if it wasn't for baseball, whether it was soccer or football or basketball or whatever it was for you, you got to be involved with something. And that's what I think is the essence. And that's why I go around to schools and help promote. I do a ton of charity events and trivia nights, and a lot of times they're doing fundraising for the sports teams because I think that's so important. Anyone else?
I understand you hurt the frontal of your brain.
Yes.
And because we're here to talk about brains, so it's amazing all the stuff you've done that you've come past it. But what was your biggest struggle with that part of your brain after that? Like, which part does that control that you're like, that I'm up, like?
Yeah. Well, initially, I mean, when I was, one of the standard questions I get is, how long were you in a coma? And my answer is, I don't remember. I was in a coma, right? And it goes along with what you're saying is, I don't know what the exact, I was the one dealing with it. The doctors were telling everybody what it was called, right? But I just kept plugging. And now, it was literally, I mean, I couldn't remember people's names. I would recognize people, but it was good friends I'd known all my life. And it was a matter of just, it felt as though I had, has anybody here ever drank any alcohol? Few people, maybe, right? Once every 2 years. Well, and I have done that a few times in my life, but it felt like I had consumed a lot of alcohol for like 3 months straight. I felt as though I was intoxicated all the time. I mean, it was just like floating around, feeling like this, and it was that was the initial recovery. I had a broken jaw, and my jaw was strapped tight, and I had to fix that and all that stuff. But mentally, it was just a matter of the big key I've got that I think that, I don't know how this happened with me. I don't know if that's why I think it came from baseball, was I just said, I'm going here, and nothing's going to stop me. And whatever happened to my brain doesn't matter. I'm going forward anyway. I'll have to do things differently. I don't have the exact same abilities I may have had. The wiring's different, but from this point forward, we're going forward and we're not going to stop. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead. I don't remember the exact time frame. I know that they had me it was only like a week. They wheeled me. I asked my dad, I said, was I in a wheelchair? And they did wheel me out to the car and took me home in a wheelchair. And then I think within a few days I was out of it and moving. And yeah, I could walk. I didn't ever lose complete. I didn't have a broken spine or anything, but it was just a matter of recovery. One more we had over here. Sure. I do that all the time. We'll come up here and do that afterwards if you like.
Let's do it after the session.
What's that?
Pictures after.
Picture after, yeah.
Did you read afterwards? Did you have to learn speech therapy?
Yeah, it was all there. It was just slow. I mean, I could read, but it was slow, and I had to go through the whole contemplation of everything again. Go ahead.
Do you find now, like so many years later, do you kind of recognize that you still do have some struggles? I mean, obviously you overcome them and still keep moving, but do you find that you, like, some days get completely drained, or you struggle over your words, or you do whatever?
I think by now I just struggle with the same things everybody else struggles with. I've pushed my brain, and I don't think about those things. I just go past and I keep going, and they're there, but I think it's the same struggles a lot of people have. And I've done most of the recovery for the core big things that were issued.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give him another big round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
On behalf of the Brain Injury Association of Missouri, we'd like to present you with this little gift. Thank you very much. Your energy and message are really important to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. I'm easy to find. If anybody has somebody that needs a message or somebody me to pay a visit or an organization, I'm easy to find. Just Google Cardinal Cowboy. The first 47 pages show up. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I think he'll be out in the back there if you want. We're now going to take a 15-minute break to visit with exhibitors and get a cup of coffee or other refreshments. The exhibits and refreshments are in the exhibit hall.
To have your heart to be